Using a 10mm wrench, we're going to go ahead and disconnect our battery terminals. And set those aside. Using a 19mm socket, let's go ahead and remove our lug nuts. Take your wheel, remove it, set it aside. And remove this nut off of our sway bar end link here. Ours is a little bit rusty, so we're going to use our Allen key, and it goes in the end of the bolt. We did spray it down with some rust penetrant. I'm going to go ahead and tap that in. Make sure that's in all the way. And then we're going to go ahead and slip our gear wrench up on there. Let's go ahead and loosen this. And use our Allen key to hold the bolt or the end of the sway bar end link and remove this nut. So we're using a 14mm gear wrench to go ahead and remove this nut. We're using the bottom part of the strut to hold leverage on our Allen wrench here to get this nut off. So we're using our Allen wrench up here with our nut, the Allen wrench hole stripped out. So basically, when we spin this here, the shaft is spinning. Our next option is to use a pair of locking pliers. I'm going to try and grab this here without ruining the boot on our link. We're going to lock this on. And then we'll try and remove the nut the rest of the way. Go ahead and release the pliers. Let's go ahead and remove this link and our brake line bracket. Using a 17mm socket and extension, I'm going to go ahead, loosen and remove our lower strut bolt. Open up your trunk, grab this lever right here, pull outward to release the latch on your back seat. Pull that and pull your back seat down. Now you want to go ahead and disconnect our third brake light harness. You want to press in on this little spring tab and disconnect that. Now on the back quarter panel here, we want to go ahead and remove this back trim piece. In order to do that, you're going to start by pulling down our coat hook here. Use a Phillips head screwdriver, and there is a screw right up in here. Let's go ahead, loosen and remove that screw. Now this back pillar right here, there's a plastic button that says side curtain airbag. You can use our trim tool and we're gently going to get back here. I want to go ahead and pop this out. You want to get behind the plastic, not the metal piece behind it. So there's your clip that you're pressing in on both sides to go ahead and unlatch. There's a little metal tab in here. This is the other piece. We're going to gently push in on that. Basically, you're going to be working both sides of it, so you can use your trim tool. I'm going to use a pick. And you want to pull this bracket out. At this point here, we can go ahead and start pulling our trim down. Start pulling our buttons out. And just continue our way back. Go ahead, and once you pull out those top buttons, pull the trim straight out. And we're going to go ahead and repeat the same process for the passenger side. Now the tray itself is held in place by some push buttons around the perimeter. I'm going to put my hand up inside, work my hand upward and pop some of these trim, and then we're going to go ahead and pull this rear package tray out, working our seat belt out through the slot, and we'll get that out. Once we get those buttons out, go ahead and pull this out towards you. There's a harness connector right here. I want to go ahead and disconnect this. I'm going to pull this button out first so we can actually get in there. I'm going to press on this little tab right here. I'm going to use our pick here. Slide our tray out. Using our 14mm socket and extension, I'm going to go ahead and remove the two nuts up top here. Whatever you do, do not loosen the center one. You just want the two on the outer edge. I'm going to go ahead and work our strut off of the bracket here, and we're going to try and push it inward and drop the strut down out of place. We're going to use our dead blow hammer. Now with this off of the knuckle itself, we're going to use our pry bar. I'm just going to go ahead and try and flex our suspension down a little bit. we're going to use our pry bar, bring our suspension down. You want to be careful when installing the strut not to hit the body of the vehicle. Line that up. Move our pry bar. Let's go ahead and line this up and place this up into the body. Once that's up into place, I'm going to go ahead and grab our pry bar and get the control arm pulled down. Now we have our strut in, the top of the control arm. We have our pry bar inside. Now what we want to do is we need to get our fork of our lower strut over the bracket. So it's going to take a little bit of working here to get the strut up and into the body and get that strut fork lined up onto the control arm bushing. So at this point here, we have the strut in place, not quite far back is where it needs to be, but there's enough pressure on this to hold the strut in place. Let's go ahead and get back into the vehicle, and we're going to put the two nuts on the top, secure that down, and then we'll come back out here and finish with our pry bar and getting the lower bolt installed. Let's go ahead and install the nuts on the top here. Let's go ahead and snug those down. Now that we have those on there, let's go ahead and get those torqued. Those two nuts are going to be torqued to 41 foot-pounds. Now we have our pry bar in here. Let's go ahead and manipulate our strut back up into place here. Kind of move this around. I'm going to use our dead blow hammer just to kind of tap our suspension up. All right, with that bolt in place, let's go ahead and see if we can get that snugged in. All right, just snug that down. Okay, remove our pry bar. And we're going to go ahead and torque this down to 47 foot-pounds. Line up your bracket for your brake flex hose. Just going to go ahead and get our end link lined up. Once we have this lined up, I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that our bracket is locked up and in place for our flex hose. Get our nut started. Let's go ahead and tighten that down. And torque these down to 33 foot-pounds. With our rear tray just setting up top here, we need to reconnect our harness right here. So let's go ahead and get that popped in. Snap that in. And we're just gonna press that little button back up and into place. With that harness up there, let's go ahead and push our tray back up and in. Feed our seat belt back up here. I want to make sure our tray is all the way back. Basically, you just want to get the plastic push pins on the back of the plastic cover lined back up, and then those will fall right in and you can snap them into place. At this point here, we can go ahead and install our cover right here. We want to line up our plastic buttons on the back here. Snap these into place. Make sure our seat belt is up where it needs to be. Now we're going to go ahead and install our B-pillar trim here. I want to go ahead and press this back tab into the notch in the back. I'm going to feed this in first, and then we're going to start pressing our buttons in and our lock tabs, working our way forward. Let's go ahead and snap in our trim. Let's go and install our retainer right here. Presses up and into place. Take your airbag button right here, line that up, snap that in. Go ahead and reinstall your Phillips head screw over here. Snug that down. Go ahead and repeat for the passenger side. Now you can go ahead and flip up your seat. Lock that into place. Let's go ahead and reconnect our third brake light connector here. And just press it in and it'll snap into place. Let's go ahead and install our wheel. Go ahead and get our lug nut started by hand. Once we get all these on, we'll go ahead and snug them down. Let's go ahead and torque our lug nuts down to 80 foot-pounds. You can install your terminals. Go ahead and snug these down. Go ahead and get your ground installed and do the same here.